Our live session today is on how to write a cover letter. Today is November 14th, 2018. So any of those of you that are here joining us or coming back to watch this later, hopefully you're having a good November. Hopefully you'll have a good Thanksgiving next week too. So we're gonna go ahead and get moving. So we'll skip through some of this beginning stuff because this won't really apply to most of you, but a couple things, just so you know, the session is being recorded. If you do join, make sure you sign in so that I can give you credit for coming. Make sure that you are muted if you're listening live so that we can cut out any background noise. Okay, here is what our agenda is going to be for this first little bit. Our first 15 minutes are going to be skill learning. So basically this first few minutes just introducing our topic. And then we're going to talk about a cover letter. There are two different names for this. It can be called a cover letter or a letter of application. The assignment that we're going to go over, activity 2.1.2 from the senior portfolio project class, that calls it a letter of application, but they are essentially the same thing. So we'll talk about what it is, why it's important, what should go in it, and how to really make it stand out. And then if anybody is joining us live, we'll have some question and answer sessions right then. And then I'll give you an example of something that you could submit for activity 2.1.2 if you were applying for a job, and then questions and answers again at the end. Okay, so our last live session was about resume writing. We kind of went through the details of what should be on a resume, what your different categories should be, how to format it to make it easy to read, keeping in mind that an employer only spends about 20 to 30 seconds looking at your resume. So this is kind of the partner to your resume. So hi, looks like we just had someone join. We have just barely gotten started. So we are talking about what a cover letter is and how it's kind of a partner to your resume. So if you have any questions, feel free to chat anything over, or you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask me out loud. But anyway, just let me know if you have any questions at all. Okay, so last time we talked about how your resume is like a movie trailer. You know, if you're a person, your brains, your personality, your abilities is a movie, your resume is kind of like a movie trailer. You're trying to show your employer the very best that you have, the very best qualities that make up who you are, what kind of an employee you would be, to make them really want to hire you. Just like a movie trailer makes people really want to go see that movie. So your cover letter is something that you will put together with your resume. So what's really important is that you don't want to just repeat the same information that's on your resume in your cover letter. You kind of want to go into a little bit more detail, or you can give specific examples of things that you've done in your life that have helped you to develop certain skills. So we'll kind of go over that in a little bit, but these are supposed to complement each other, not necessarily replace each other. Okay. So as I mentioned in the beginning, a cover letter can also be called a letter of application. You usually submit it together with your resume. And what's important about this that I think a lot of people sometimes get confused is that it is supposed to be a letter in letter form. I've had a lot of people submit this assignment for a cover letter or a letter of application as just a resume or a job application filled out. This is supposed to be you writing in paragraph form. So not only can your employer see what abilities you have and why they should hire you, but they can also see your writing ability. They can see how you express yourself in words and complete sentences. And so it's important that you write it in letter format, addressed to a specific person, complete sentences, paragraphs, ending at the end with your signature and name. Okay, so this is what we covered before. If your resume is your movie trailer, your cover letter is like a brief written summary of your movie written in paragraph form. I don't know if you ever watch or ever look at like Wikipedia synopsis to figure out what a movie's about before you go watch it. I know that kind of ruins it, but sometimes I do that because I'm too curious. That's kind of what this would be, but it's a very, very brief. It's 2 or 3 paragraphs at the most. Okay, so here are your 3 most important keys when you are writing a cover letter that you're going to send to an employer, somebody that you want to get a job with. Okay, first of all, you need to have it written in the proper format, and we're going to go over that today. So there's a lot of details and facts and information you need to have at the beginning before you start your letter. So that's one part. Second, your actual letter portion, should be written in full sentences. You should be talking about what position you're applying for, why you're interested in that position, what your attributes or qualities are that would make you good for that position. And lastly, I cannot stress this enough. You should have excellent grammar and spelling on your cover letter. Now that doesn't mean that you have to be perfect, but what it does mean is that once you finish it, go back and read it, and then go back and reread it, look for mistakes, look for places you can improve your writing, and then find someone that you trust to go back and proofread it for you. And we'll talk more about this, as we go further on, but basically having grammar or spelling errors in your cover letter is going to be probably the quickest way for an employer to glance at your letter and say, oh, nope, I don't want to hire that person. I'm going to skip on to somebody else. So you want to make sure that you're using, proper grammar and spelling. Okay, so those are kind of our 3 big points today. Okay, so let's get to your proper format, first of all. Now, as far as the order of these, they can vary slightly depending on who's writing your letter, what template you're seeing. But here's kind of a basic synopsis. At the very top, you're going to have your name, phone number, and email address, basically your contact information up here, just like you would on your resume. It's the same thing. You want this future employer to be able to see easily how to contact you. You can put your street address also. That's not necessarily required, but you can put it on there. You also need to have the date. So this sample actually put the date first. And, they have their information up here and then the date. So you want to have the date that you're sending this letter, and then you want to have the name and contact information of your future employer. So what that means is, I'm going to go back a little bit. What that means is you would have his name, his position or title, his or her, position or title, the name of the company, and the address, the street address of the company. So this is an important piece that you got to have right here. And then after you have all that proper formatting at the top, that's when you write your letter. So from here on down, this is just a normal letter, okay? So you would address the letter portion, Dear Mr. So-and-so or Ms. So-and-so. You want to sound professional, but you also want to sound personable. So you don't want to say, to whom it may concern, because you want to find out exactly who it is that's hiring for this job, find out their last name so that you can use their last name, so that way it catches their attention a little more. Like, oh, this person's done their research. They know who they're reaching out to. If it's a man, I would use Mr. and then his last name. If it's a woman, your safest bet is to use Ms., just MS dot, and then their last name. You don't want to assume that somebody is either a Miss or a Mrs. because you never really know. Unless you know them personally, you don't know if they're married or not. And you can use Ms., which is MS dot, for any woman. And it's, it covers everyone, and it still sounds very professional. So you would do Dear Mr. or Ms. So-and-so. And then you'd have 2 or 3 body paragraphs that we'll go over in a little bit more detail soon. And then you're going to sign off with your name, sincerely, or all the best, or however you want to end your signature, your name printed, and then you're going to print out this piece of paper and actually put your signature in between there, right above where your name is printed. So this is our basic format right here of what you're going to follow. Now this sample has the very, very top line, horizontal, showing your personal information. You could stack it just like this one is stacked right here. So, and I'll show you another sample of that a little bit later so you know what I mean. But basically, it's just important that you have your contact information at the top so that when your employer reads your letter and they're so impressed by your skills and so anxious to talk to you, they know right away how to get in touch with you. Okay, oh yeah, and here's where we get to the contact information of your future employer. I already went over this, but you want to have their names. This says Mr. John M. Smith. His position, he is a senior recruitment consultant. The company name, company ABC, and the street address, which would be this. This is obviously all fake, but you would find out this real information for whatever job you're applying for. So again, your personal info, space, the date, space, the contact information of the person who's in charge of the hiring, person you're actually writing your letter to, space, and then you start your letter, your personalized letter right here. Okay, so that's our first piece, proper format. The second piece we're going to go over is the actual letter portion. Okay, so what's going to go into these paragraphs specifically. Okay, I've given you 2 different samples right here. And you can even see, the different formatting. Both of these are acceptable. So Sarah's sample, this has her address over here, contact information over here, email. It's all at the top though. So the employer knows exactly right away how to get a hold of her. Same thing over here. It's formatted a little bit differently, but it's still really easy to find. Okay, so for your letter portion, again, address your future employer or potential employer by their title and name, so Mr. So-and-so or Ms. So-and-so. Then you have your first paragraph. What's really important in this paragraph is to state why you are writing. So why should this person pay attention to you? What's the purpose of this letter? You want to say that right away. Obviously, it's to apply for a job. So you're also going to state the specific name of the job that you're interested in. What is it that you're applying for? This person could be in charge of hiring for hundreds of different positions. So you want to be specific. Hi, looks like we just had someone else join. Welcome. We're just in the middle of talking about how to have a cover letter, how to write a cover letter or a letter of application. So if you have any questions at all, just go ahead and either unmute yourself and you can ask, or you can use the chat system. And just either send me a personal chat or you can send a group chat to the whole group. Sound good? Okay, awesome. If there's anything you need help with, just let me know, or if there's any questions you have. We will have a section for questions specifically, but if you have anything in the meantime that you want to ask, feel free. Okay, again, so just reviewing this page that we're on right now, we talked about having a proper format on a cover letter. So basically, for those that just joined, a cover letter is something that you put together with your resume when you're applying for a job. And it basically just tells your employer a little bit more about yourself. It makes them, gives them more detail and really lets them know why they should hire you a little bit more specifically, because you can kind of show off a little bit more about yourself. So quick recap, up here you have your personal information, and then you're going to put the date that you're writing this letter, and the contact information of the person you're writing your letter to, and then you're going to address your letter. Dear Mr. So-and-so or Dear Ms. So-and-so. So here we are talking about what actually goes into these paragraphs that you're going to write to your employer. And if I'm going too fast, tell me to slow down. This will be posted on YouTube if any of you want to go back and review this. Okay, so again, paragraph 1, state why you're writing, state the name of the job you're interested in, and also state how you heard about the job, especially if you heard about it from, a referral, maybe somebody that they work with. If you can, say a name of somebody that they know and trust in their workplace that told you about the job, that can even give you a little bit of a leg in, of helping them say, oh, well, if so-and-so referred them, they must be, pretty good and willing to work hard and be a good employee. So that's your first paragraph. Paragraph 2, this is all about why should they hire you? What are your qualifications? What makes you special? Now, there's a good chance that on your resume, you put a list of skills or qualifications on your actual resume. This, might have things like your typing speed or your personality traits or your attention to detail or whatever it is. So in this paragraph, you don't necessarily want to repeat those same things. You don't want to be repetitive or redundant. You want to have a chance to say more about yourself. And instead of just saying what attributes you have, you could even describe an experience that you've had in your life that has helped you to develop a certain attribute or a certain quality. So the nice thing about a cover letter is that it gives you more space, more time, more sentences to be able to write out why you would be a great employee. What life experience you've had to help you get to this point. And paragraph 3, your final paragraph. Again, you can switch these into 2 paragraphs if you prefer, or you can write it as 3. Your third paragraph will again repeat your interest in the position. Say that you're interested. You want to leave your contact information and let them know that you're attaching your resume as well. And then above all, you really want to thank your employer for taking the time to even read your letter, to get to know you as a person, to consider you for the job. So be as gracious and as, as genuine as you can be to the employer about your gratitude for being considered. So these are your main 3 paragraphs, and we'll talk a little bit more about them in a minute. And then you would end, you can say sincerely or all the best or best wishes, however you want to end your letter. You'll type your name, and then you're going to sign it in between before you submit your letter. So here's a basic format for the letter portion, not including all the formatting up top. So after our question and answer portion, we're going to go ahead and look at an example so I can show you each of these in action. But this is kind of the basic format for you. So that's the first two parts, having the right format and then having this letter portion with all the things you need in each paragraph. And then the third part that I said is the third most important thing about a cover letter is having excellent grammar and spelling. And again, I can't stress this enough. Your employer is going to spend 20 to 30 seconds looking at your resume, possibly that same amount of time looking at your letter. And if the first thing that they notice is a spelling error or a grammatical error, or you didn't capitalize the first letter of your sentence, or you didn't capitalize the word I, even small, simple mistakes like that, they can immediately just pass you over and say, no, I want somebody that knows how to write proper English, you know? So you want to make sure that you are proofreading this letter and making sure that it's proper. So I would suggest that you yourself, once you write it, read and reread your letter multiple times to make sure you're writing complete sentences. That means don't have a run-on sentence with a bunch of commas. Each paragraph shouldn't be one sentence. Each paragraph should be at least 3 to 5 sentences, if not more. Some of the most common mistakes that I see are kids forgetting to capitalize the first letter of a sentence, forgetting to capitalize the word I, and forgetting to put periods at the end of their sentences. So if you can even just fix those 3 things, that'll help a ton, a huge amount. But overall, make sure that as you read through your letter, you can actually hear the flow, and your sentences are complete sentences. They're not fragments and they're not run-ons, they're proper sentences. And then once you've read over your cover letter, you know, multiple times to make sure that it is error-free, then find somebody that you trust. It can be a parent, it can be a sibling, it can be a different relative or a neighbor or your local advocate or your academic coach or even me. You're welcome to reach out to your teachers and email them and just say, hey, will you look over this and make sure that it looks good, that there's no errors? And any one of your teachers would be happy to do that for you. So last thing would just be ask someone you trust to proofread it again to check for any mistakes and to give you feedback on maybe something that you could explain more clearly or do a little bit better or whatever it may be. Okay, so here is our whole format in summary, right? This is what a letter would look like. Again, at the top, your name, street address, phone number. I actually forgot to put on here email. You want to put your email on there as well, since that's how most employers communicate these days. Then a space, the date today, a space, the individual's name that you're writing to, their job title and the name of their company, and then their street address. So all of that goes together in one chunk. And then a space, and then you start your letter. Dear Mr. or Ms. So-and-so, first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph, sincerely, your name, okay? And then enclosure just means if you're submitting your resume with it, which you probably should, you would just make sure that you attach your resume, or you could even say at the bottom, a resume enclosed, or resume included, or resume attached, whatever it may be. Okay, so this is our basic framework. So, do we have any questions thus far? I know we've got a couple students that have joined, so I'll wait and just sit here quietly for, I don't know, 30, 40 seconds, and if you have a question, go ahead and unmute yourself, or you can go ahead and type it as a chat to me individually or to the whole group, and if anyone has any questions, I will answer those. So we'll take a pause for a minute. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions come up. So if you think of one, go ahead and send it over in a chat, or unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. You can ask it anytime. So the last portion of this presentation, we are going to look at an example. And because I'm a big fan of Marvel superheroes, I don't know if you guys are as well, we're going to use a Marvel superhero for our example. You guys know who this guy is right here? This is Mr. Tom Holland, who is the latest version of Peter Parker or Spider-Man. I only really know his real name because my niece has a really big crush on him. She's 17 and she thinks he is just the bee's knees, the best. So he's going to be our example today. So we're going to use him to write a cover letter. So I'm going to pull up one that I wrote pretending to be him and kind of walk you through each of our steps. So I'm going to go back a couple slides to our format right here. Okay. So as we all know, Spider-Man's real name is Peter Parker. So we're going to use Peter Parker because that sounds more professional than applying for a job as Spider-Man, right? I think so. Okay, so we're going to follow this format, and I'm going to show you an example of how it works on this letter. So your personal name info. We're going to call him Peter Parker. This is where he lives, obviously on Superhero Drive. I made all this up, and I know it's probably really corny, but I did my very best. Forest Hills, New York, Peter Parker at hero.com, and there's his phone number, okay? So all of his information's up here. So the second the employer reads his letter and is like, oh my gosh, I need to hire this guy, he knows exactly how to get in touch with him. Then a space, then today's date, November 14th, and you want this to be the date that you are, giving the employer this letter. It can be within a couple days before, but you don't want to write this letter now and then apply for a job in 2 months and have the same date on there. Because then the employer would be like, do they even know what job is available right now? This is, 2 months old. So you want to have a current date on there. Then you're going to write the name of the person that you are reaching out to. So I don't know a lot about the Marvel Universe, but I know some, and I know that Tony Stark's kind of the one that got Peter Parker into the Marvel Avengers group. So we're just going to pretend like he's writing to Tony Stark to apply for this job. So here's who he's reaching out to. Tony Stark, who is the hiring manager. That's his position. Again, remember individual's name, job title, then the name of the organization, Marvel Avenger Enterprises. I have no idea if that's what it's called, but we'll just say that it is. And then the street address, city, state, and zip code. So we have that right here. Okay, so all of that, this whole portion up top is the formatting of what you need to have at the top of your letter. Your info, the date, and the info of the person that you're writing your letter to. Then we get to our letter portion. Dear Mr. Stark, right? We're going to start off very professional. Now remember, in your first paragraph, you want to state your reason for writing, the name of the position that you're applying for, and how you learned of the opening. So that's what we're going to try to do here. Dear Mr. Stark, I'm writing to inform you of my interest in the position of Avenger team member. I was made aware of this opening from a colleague of yours, Clint Barton, also known as Hawkeye. Now, we know that Tony Stark and Clint Barton know each other. They work together. They're colleagues. So if he trusts Clint Barton or Hawkeye, he would trust somebody that he referred. So being able to name drop, if you have somebody in the company that you know that told you about the position, this is the place where you would say who that person is because it'll give you a leg up on the rest of the applicants. I know that I would be a great asset to your team of Avengers. Okay, so our first paragraph, very short, simple, straight to the point, but it covers these three main things. Mr. Stark knows exactly why I'm writing to him and exactly what job it is I'm hoping to get. Okay, move this out of the way. Our second paragraph, you got to say why you're interested in working there, how are you perfect for this position. Don't just repeat the information on your resume, but tell them something special or unique about yourself that's going to benefit the employer. Also, remember, they're thinking of this as an example of your writing skills. You're showing them how intelligent you are and how well you can write. Employers want somebody that can write really well. No matter what the position is, that's usually an important piece. And again, that just means you got to check it over and proofread it and do your best. Even if you're a little bit nervous about whether or not you're writing properly, just check it over and have somebody else check it over. Okay, so here's an example that we gave. And I kind of was just making this up as I go because I don't really know a lot about Peter Parker's life, but I figured he would be more exciting to talk about than me. Okay, so this is him writing to Mr. Stark. My qualities and attributes, both as a person and as a superhero, would be a great addition to the team you have created. And these are some of his attributes. I'm incredibly driven, ambitious, and I'm not afraid of a challenge. Having faced several difficulties or setbacks in my personal and professional life, I have never slowed down, but instead have used the lessons learned to push me to develop my skills and build my character. So this is a really vague example from his life, but you can use a specific experience you had or hardship you went through to describe how that changed you or improved you as a person and as an employee. I am strong and confident in my abilities as an individual, but I also excel in a group setting where I have the opportunity to hear the input of others and determine and execute the best course of action based on various perspectives. So basically here I'm saying, hey, I'm great on my own. I'm a really awesome superhero because I'm, freaking Spider-Man. But I am ready and willing to work as a team. And that's something that a lot of employers will look for as well. Someone that has strong individual skills, but that can also get along with and work with other people really well. My warm personality fosters an open and pleasant work atmosphere. Above all, I am driven by the desire to do good and stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. Now, obviously, this isn't something that you would, probably put on, and that's an important thing for the Avengers, right? So you want to think about what the job is that's being posted. What is the job that you're applying for? What kind of needs would they have for an employee? What specific skills would they want someone to have? And then say, hey, I have those skills. Here's an example from my life of how I fill this position that you need filled. Okay, and your third paragraph. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Your third paragraph, you can mention that your resume suggest days and times, or you can just say I'm flexible, reach out to me at your earliest convenience, something like that. Let them know that you're going to follow up. And anyway, so this whole thing is basically just about, hey, I would really like to meet with you. Let's make this happen, And then at the very end, you want to thank the employer for his or her time. Oh, let me go back one. And this is really important. Make sure that you thank them so that they know that you're a people person that is aware of the time that other people spend on you. So what I kind of put here as an example, I've enclosed my resume, which means I really do need to include my resume with this. I can't say that and then not put it there. I've enclosed my resume, which will list other qualities and work experience that you will find pertinent or important to this application. I would love the opportunity to meet with you in person to discuss the specific details and challenges of the job and the ways that I am prepared to handle and resolve them. I can make myself available to meet during weekdays at any location that is convenient for you. Please contact me by phone or email listed at the top of this letter to schedule a meeting at your earliest convenience. I will reach out to you again by November 20th, 2018 to follow up. Now this is basically saying, I'm available to meet anytime, but I'm also going to, by then, that's the date that I'm going to be reaching back out to you. You don't want this to be too soon. You don't want to say like, I'm going to call you back tomorrow or within a couple days, and even a week is pretty soon. But you basically want to let them know like, I'm really interested and I'm going to do what it takes to show you my interest and to follow up with you to make sure that you do this job. Third paragraph. And then I just end time and consideration. I look forward to hearing from you. This is a great way to end a letter, really both of these together, thanking them and letting them know I look forward to hearing from you so that they know like, okay, the ball's in your court now. I want you to, I want to hear from you so that I can show you how interested I am in this job. Then you're going to have a few spaces, sincerely, space, Peter Parker. So you have your name typed, but then you're going to print off this page and actually hand sign it with your hand in between those two things. So that is an example of a cover letter. Obviously, it's kind of a ridiculous example because it's Spider-Man, but this is if Spider-Man was applying for this specific job, and you can see the attributes that he states and the people that he knows that told him about this job. He probably wouldn't say all of these qualities if he was applying for a job as a photographer or as a scientist or as an office manager or whatever it may be. This is specifically to be on this team of Avengers, right? So you want to look at the job you're applying for, see what they need, and tell them how those needs. Okay, so that's our example. Move that back out of the way. And so this, if you're in the senior portfolio class, this is assignment 2.1.2, which is, it says a letter of application. It's right after you submit your resume. So this is an example of what you can do for that. And if you want to use this as a template to write your own cover letter, you are more than welcome to. And it kind of will lay out for you exactly how to format your cover letter. All right, so that is the end of our discussion. We have time for questions. I know we've got a few people that have joined us, so I'll go ahead and pause again for about 30 seconds or so and see if anybody's got any questions. Again, you can chat to everyone or just to me personally, or you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question out loud. This can be about cover letters, about resumes, even about job interviews, or about your classes, or about the Graduation Alliance program. Any questions that you have are more than welcome. So I'll go ahead and pause for a little bit to see if anyone's got any. Okay, it looks like we don't have any questions that I've seen, so that's all we have for today. If you do think of any questions you have related to this topic or anything else that I can help with, you're more than welcome to email me. My email is, I'll even type it on the group chat. It's Angie, A-N-G-I-E, .Irion, I-R-I-O-N, at graduationalliance.com. So feel free to chat me any questions or email me or chat me any questions you have or concerns, or maybe you want to have help preparing yourself for a job interview or writing a cover letter or a resume. I'm happy to help. But that's everything. So I'm so glad you guys joined today, and this will be posted on YouTube for you to refer back to if you need it. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great day and happy Thanksgiving next week.